And welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We're talking with Robert Weiss, author of the book Out of the Doghouse, a step-by-step relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. Okay, Robert, so let's get into it. I'm a man. I'm married. I just cheated. What do I do next?
Well, it depends on whether you've been found out or not.
Okay, let's assume. Okay, we'll do one and then the other. I haven't been found out yet. What do I do?
I think that's up to you. I think if you have cheated and you have gotten away with it, the questions I'd be asking for myself is, how do I feel about now keeping a secret and having a secret maybe forever from this person that I was very close to? Because now there's something in between us that I know and they don't, and that makes us by definition less intimate. Which might make you think about whether you want to do it again or not. Some people think, oh, I got away with it, so I can do it more. And some people think I got away with it, but I feel terrible. And you're right. The answer is not, I feel terrible, so let me dump this on my spouse. The answer is, I feel terrible about this. Let me go to therapy and examine it. Let me talk to my rabbi, my pastor, and my friends, and start to work out, how am I going to proceed in the future so I don't end up doing things that make me feel terrible and distancy from my spouse in the future.
Right. Okay. Now, I've cheated on my wife. She caught me. Now what?
You're going to have a bad day.
A bad day, a bad week, a bad month, a bad
probably
year.
a bad year. So just a few things. I mean, I think you should expect that she is going to want to know every single thing that you've ever done. Not only this, but ever. She will become a one-woman detective machine. She's going to go through your cell phone bills, your wallet. She might hire a detective. She might hire a lawyer. She's going to read everything you've ever written online, through every piece of your social media. Spouses who've been cheated on are the greatest consumers of self-help books, and they are also the greatest private detectives. And your response as the cheater is not, that's private, leave it alone, I don't want you in that, because you have lost trust in your relationship. I get asked a lot in the media sometimes, when a couple is together with all the social media stuff, when should we really have access to somebody's codes and be able to get into all this stuff? And my answer is, as long as there is trust, it's none of your business. Your spouse can journal or write things to friends or say things personally or privately. It's really, everyone gets to have a private life even though you're in a relationship.
Okay.
But when trust is broken. Right. You have to understand, I think also as a man, that we often parse trust. So we say, well, I'm really trustworthy as a husband and father. I've been always shown up, picked up the kids. I've always, picked up my paycheck. The money's always gone to the family. I've always been faithful in every other way except with these other women. But your spouse is not going to look at it that way. Because she looks at it like, I can either trust you or I can't. And so now I don't trust you with money. Now I don't trust you with the kids. Now I don't trust you with anything. And your job is to say, I completely understand that. Okay. So this is not a time to be defensive. This is not a time to fix anything. This is definitely not a time to get her to forgive you. And it's definitely not a time to think that flowers and candy and a lot of I'm sorries will really make up for cracking the basis of the foundation of your relationship, which is what you've done. You are in the doghouse. And being in the doghouse means you don't get to defend, you don't get to protect, you don't get to be right. You have to take into account in the big picture for a while, the pain that your spouse is going through and the fact that they don't trust you. So when they come after you, when you're 10 minutes late with the groceries and say, I know you're at it again, even though it had nothing to do with it, it was traffic and you were just getting groceries, you don't say, well, give me a break. You say, given what I did to you, I can understand why you wouldn't be trusting me tonight, even though that's not what's going on. Because when we get defensive, when we try to prove them wrong, when we try to tell them to give us a break, or we try to win them over with gifts and flowers, they get further away from us, not closer.
Right. And so that initial point has happened. How do you start to repair the conversation, repair the relationship? What kinds of conversations do you have with your spouse to help to repair the relationship?
Well, unfortunately, in the early stages of infidelity, there are only really two conversations that a couple has. The man says, I'm sorry, I really didn't mean it, I'm sorry, and I really do love you. And she says, I hate you, you ruined my relationship, and I don't know if I'll ever feel better. So there's not a lot of real, deep, meaningful conversation in the beginning. She's going to be a lot about what was it, where was it, what don't I know, how can I find out? And you, as the cheater, are either going to tell her the truth or you're not, depending on how deep and heavy the truth is and what support you both have for getting through that.
Right. And do you feel like the man needs to tell the wife everything, or like does he have to go into all the details and everything, or is it just that she knows in general that he cheated or how many times, and like that's enough, that it doesn't necessarily do any good to provide more details than that?
Well, I've never met a spouse who would say, I don't think it's useful to have more details, ever. Every spouse wants to know all the details, except those who are extremely religious who will say, if I know this about my husband, then I'm going to have to leave him, so don't tell me. Those are the only women I've ever met who said they didn't want to know.
Really? Okay.
So it's really about what are the boundaries around what I tell and what I don't tell.
Yeah.
And to me, those boundaries have to do with how much support the couple has. So I don't care how much this woman wants to know everything, or unless she has a therapist, unless she has support, unless she has a place to go, I'm not going to dump this on her, because now I am responsible for not hurting her more.
Right.
And even though she will say, well, it's the not knowing that hurts me more, the reality is that, well, actually, without you having someone to go to and talk about this, since you really can't talk to me about it, since you're angry at me, I am not being fair to you by just dumping this on you, even though you want to know. But if we go to therapy to talk about it and you have some support, then I'd be willing to share it with you, because I don't want to hurt you further.
Right.
And then when the issues are shared, they're not graphic. You know, yes, I was with 3 prostitutes in the last 7 years. Yes, I called my ex-girlfriend Mary and we had phone sex. But no detail about where, how long, because you never want to put in a spouse's head images of what that looked like, because that kind of trauma they're going to have in their head forever. But how many times, how long, how much money you spent, those are things that a spouse has the right to know, certainly if they want to, because I mean, it really depends on what you believe about relationships and equality. I don't see how a relationship can go forward intimately with one partner having a whole bunch of information that's secret that the other spouse doesn't know about, because that's a power position. And I think couples really need to have some sense of equality and safety in order to go forward. And besides, why would you ask that woman to go forward with you if she doesn't know what she's going forward with? What have you done? I mean, did you love somebody? Are they pregnant, or are you having a baby, or did you go to Vegas and get a lap dance? I mean, you know, she really needs to have some sense of what she's considering continuing with or not continuing with.
So I got 2 questions from things that you said. The first one is, so do you feel that they should both have like a couples therapist as well as they should have individual therapists?
Well, everybody doesn't have the resources for that.
Right.
But in an ideal world, there isn't a lot of room for couples therapy in the beginning of this process, because couples therapy is about, I hate you, you ruined my life, and won't you please forgive me? So in the very beginning, couples therapy for infidelity is really helpful, I think, to set boundaries. Like, where are you going to sleep at night? Are you going to hit him? Are you going to divorce him? Is he going to see this other person again? So everybody knows what's going on going forward. But then each person really, I think, needs their individual support to come to terms with their anger, their hurt, their disappointment themselves or the other, before they can come back together and do deeper work. There's one more thing about that, and I think it's important. When you take a couple where there's been infidelity on the part of a man, and you begin to say to that woman as a therapist, so what was your childhood like? Or how did your parents get along? Or how was your sex life with your man or your husband before this started? That's abusive. Because in the beginning, you're telling this woman who's been victimized and hurt by this experience, you're giving her information on some level that says, well, let's talk about you and your problems, because on some level, you are responsible for him cheating. And there is nothing any woman can do to make a man cheat. She can not have sex with him. She can gain 300 pounds. She can be horrible to him. He can leave her. He can get a divorce lawyer. He can start playing golf. He can help underprivileged kids. You know, there are a lot of things he can get a divorce. A lot of things a man can do when he's unhappy with his sex and romantic life and his partner, other than say, okay, I guess the logical solution is to go cheat over here. That's the choice of the person who did it. That's never the responsibility of the person to whom it happened.
Okay. My next question is, I think something very important is, how do we define cheating? Because I know, like, you threw in phone sex. Is playing a sex video game cheating? Is sexting, you know, on your phone cheating? You know, what is cheating?
This is a great question. I'm so glad you asked me this, because having worked with unfaithful couples for almost 30 years, what defined infidelity 25 years ago is very different than what defines it now. Because it used to be a real thing that me and somebody else were doing in the office, and I had lipstick on my collar, you know, and everybody knew. But if I'm webcamming with somebody else and they're thousands of miles away and I'll never meet them, I don't know their last name, and we're just having sex, isn't that sort of like my dad looking at Playboy and what's the big deal? So my definition for infidelity in the digital age is simply this. It's the keeping of profound secrets in an intimate relationship. Infidelity is the keeping of profound secrets in an intimate relationship. So if you know that, and by the way, that means infidelity can be financial. Because I can say to you, you know, I really want to buy this great watch, honey. Can I get that? I'll just take $10 a month out of our paycheck. And you say, you know, I kind of want that money for the kids and this and that. And I'd rather you don't do that. And I say, oh, I'm going to take that $10 out of my check. And she won't even know. And I come to you 3 years later having said nothing and say, ooh, look at my great new watch. Don't you love it? You're not going to be happy for me. You're going to be angry at me. Not because I got the thing I wanted, but because you didn't know. You asked me not to, and I did it anyway. So in the same way, infidelity is about, you know, if you look at porn and you like porn and you tell me and I'm your spouse and I say, honey, you look at a little porn once in a while. I don't care. We have a good relationship. It's your business. I don't want to know. Well, if I come home one night and I see some porn on your computer, I might be curious. I might be embarrassed, but I'm not going to be angry because I will know that you look at porn, you told me. But if I have no idea that you ever look at porn, if I don't think it's really part of your value system or beliefs or something you'd bring into our home for whatever reasons, and I go to your computer when you're out and I find 1,000 images of other women and you know, I will be really pissed. Not because you're looking at the porn, but because I didn't know. And so to me, that's what defines infidelity. It's the betrayal of trust. Much more than it's about sex.
I just look at regular porn, and then they go and they find like child porn on your computer, or fetish porn, or like, you know, some other like bizarre stuff, bestiality that they didn't know you.
Well, I look at porn, honey. Is that a problem for you? Is a great opportunity for a woman to say, "What kind of porn do you look at?" And then they can have that kind of discussion. And again, that's intimate. I'm telling you about my sexual life. I'm telling you about my desires. I'm telling you about what turns me on that may be a little, you know, that I certainly wouldn't say to anyone else. So what an incredibly intimate thing to do. And yet it seems to me with most men that we would rather look good to our partners than be honest. And that's where men fall on their face.
Absolutely. And you know, if your spouse finds out and all you do is deny it, then you're only making things worse.
Well, and even worse than that is if your spouse finds out and you only tell them just as much as they have found out, and you don't tell them the other stuff they don't know about. And they say, okay, now I know all of it. I feel better. Now I know what the bottom is. I'm not happy. But then 3 weeks later, they find there's more. Then the possibility of trust being restored to that relationship goes down exponentially.
Absolutely. Okay, great. All right, believe it or not, already the last commercial break of the hour. So when we come back, we're going to talk about a few more things, and we'll let you know where to get the book. So everybody, please stay tuned. You're listening to The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We'll be right back.